In Naruto chapter 326, the titular hero is finally able to demonstrate the full cultivation of his Rasen Shuriken training when he single-handedly defeats Kakuzu, a member of the Akatsuki. While Kakashi says he could have handled Kakuzu on his own with Kamui, as per his words, but chose not to, seeing as how the last time put him in a hospital for the entire arc. He still notes that this Naruto has finally surpassed him. Granted, he does sort of redact this in the very next chapter, since the Rasen Shuriken, while superior to anything in Kakashi's arsenal in attack potency, is risky in its use, given that Naruto broke multiple bones just by using it. My point being that it took Naruto well over 343 chapters for Kakashi to even consider that his student had caught up and even surpassed him, and we, as the audience, feel the same way. And he didn't definitively surpass Kakashi until chapter 424, because he was dead. But Kakashi stepping up and facing down the Tendo Pain and Asura Path with Choji and Choza as support is a moment that speaks to his ability and the respect he's given. But if it wasn't clear by this point, it was chapter 430 that Naruto truly surpassed his sensei with his Sage form, since this mode was meant to allow Naruto to surpass even Jiraiya. I don't want to get too much into Jiraiya versus Kakashi, but you know, the narrative implication was that Jiraiya was just superior to everybody else in the village at the time. 430 chapters for our main character to become stronger than his sensei and predecessors, and this was treated as a monumental moment for Naruto's character in the grand scope of the series. And even after he was surpassed, Kakashi still found a way to be relevant, never letting himself be left behind and constantly improving with every appearance up until the end. In Boruto chapter 21, however, Boruto awakens to karma, and spoiler alert, Konohamaru has already been surpassed by his student. 21 chapters into the manga, and the student's capabilities have transcended the sensei's, with the gap in power only getting wider with each coming chapter. Now, by no means am I saying that power is everything, and while he still stands as one of the Leaf's best, if not the top Jonin, sometimes it seems like he's the only Jonin, there sadly isn't much going for him by this point of the story, and it doesn't seem like he'll be getting any time in the spotlight anytime soon. But this isn't a pessimistic video about how much Konohamaru sucks. This video is about why I genuinely like him as a character and hope that he isn't forgotten like so many others that come before him. Rock Lee. Gosh. Real quick, I just want to say that this video is sponsored by you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Although my channel's fairly small, it's still a great feeling to know that there are people out there who enjoy my content and are willing to drop by and discuss Naruto Boruto. So if you did enjoy the video, or not, why not give it a thumbs up, as it really helps my channel out. If you hate my guts and disagree with me, tell me all about it in the comments. Again, thanks for watching. Now, back to the video. Konohamaru makes his very first appearance in the second chapter of the Naruto manga titled Konohamaru, which is literally before Sasuke was introduced. But we see him make a dramatic appearance into the chapter where we see him attempting to battle his grandfather, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the current and third Hokage. But he's just horrible at it. After assuming that Naruto must have interfered in some way by planning a trap, the two nearly come to blows before Konohamaru's sensei, Ebisu the God, steps in. He yells at Naruto to unhand the boy because he's the grandson of the revered Hokage. And here we get our first glance into who Konohamaru is as a character. We see that Konohamaru fully expects Naruto to pardon his behavior like everyone else because he's the Hokage's grandson, to which our MC reassures everyone in attendance that he isn't like everyone else. He's him, and doesn't care at all who Konohamaru is. This is an important interaction for Konohamaru's character, as we can see, just like Naruto with Iruka in the previous chapter, all he really wanted was for someone to acknowledge him for who he is rather than what he is. So they act out to get the attention they desire so much. With a newfound respect for Naruto, Konohamaru begins to follow our hero in the hopes of becoming his student. He tells Naruto that he wishes to learn the jutsu he used to solo the Hokage, the one I can't say or show, but you know the one. But Naruto agrees to train him in the centerfold jutsu, and Konohamaru is he's just awful at it. But despite seeming like a gag character for most of his appearance, the pair do eventually have a moment of character building when Konohamaru explains his constant attempts to battle Sarutobi. In a mirroring of chapter 1, he tells Naruto that no one ever calls him by his name because all they ever see is the Hokage's grandson, and that his plan is to defeat his grandfather in battle and become the new Hokage so that people will finally acknowledge him for him. Naruto, of course, calls him a nerd and ironically craps all over his dreams, but then tells Konohamaru that just wanting something isn't enough to make your dreams come true, and if he wishes to become the Hokage, Konohamaru has to get through him first. Yo, this dude is so cocky for like no reason. The most important and final tool Naruto gives his new student is the lesson that there are no shortcuts to becoming Hokage, which the pair seem to see the title as interchangeable with earning people's respect. But even Sarutobi looks upon this moment with a smile, and it's genuinely pretty heartwarming. From this moment forward, Konohamaru declares Naruto his rival, swearing to fight over the Hokage's name someday. But Konohamaru doesn't make another appearance in the manga until chapter 34, where his teammates Udan and Moegi introduce themselves. All three of them claim Naruto as their idol, but none of them have any real skill to speak of. When Konohamaru offends Sakura, she chases the group with Konohamaru bumping into Kankuro from the Sand Village. Hopefully outclassed, he is saved by Sasuke, leading to him considering Naruto lame in comparison. Despite that, Konohamaru and his team still idolize Naruto. We don't see Konohamaru again until chapter 126, where we see all of the academy students being evacuated during Orochimaru's attack on Konoha. We see that regardless of how many times he attempts to challenge his grandfather, he still cares for him, as he worries for his safety when his stone face cracks on the Hokage monument. And this is conveyed to us no clearer than during Hiruzen's funeral, where we see Konohamaru grieving over the passing of his grandfather. In the anime, he continues to grieve all the way up until the point when Tsunade is found and brought back to the village by Naruto and Jiraiya. Konohamaru does nothing of any real importance for the rest of Part 1's narrative, but with this conclusion of the first half of Naruto, he's been set up as the generation after Naruto who has been inspired by our main character. This leaves the door open for growth, as I've spoken about, especially now that he's dealt with both loss and a newfound sense of inspiration to work harder and get stronger to defeat his idol and rival. And time after time, we're told that the old generation will always be surpassed by the new generation, by both Kakashi and Hiruzen, as they will be the next ones to protect the leaf when the old generation can no longer do it. Now, I know that line of thinking is pretty controversial given what we've seen with Madara, Hashirama in the war, and Tobirama, and Minato. But traditionally speaking, the older generation always surpasses the new generation, as we've seen an immense increase in power spiking as the series continues to go on. And even up until the new Boruto series, we see that the youth are much more gifted, starting out with seemingly 2 chakra natures each, as opposed to Naruto, who only found out about his chakra nature from Kakashi and Shippuden. After the time skip, Konohamaru is said to be a genin now, the same rank as Naruto, and seemingly has been training. While he's still up to his usual shenanigans as a gag character, he is treated as a character with actual goals and an ongoing arc despite the lack of screen time. And if you aren't familiar with what a gag character is, think along the lines of Sandman, someone who doesn't serve a real purpose in the overall story besides being a joke or a conduit for one. Let's focus on a sec for Sarutobi. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Let's focus on a sec for Asuma Sarutobi, the child of Hiruzen and an uncle of Konohamaru, who loses his life in a fight with the Akatsuki. Before he goes, he tells Shikamaru who the king and shogi is, the most important piece of them all that must be protected at all costs. He tells Shikamaru that the king is essentially the next generation who will grow up and take care of the leaf, referring to, but not limited to, Konohamaru and Mirai, Asuma's unborn daughter. But we see Konohamaru again at his uncle Asuma's funeral before he takes another hiatus from the series. The next time we see him is in the Pain arc, specifically during the assault on the village, and this is where Konohamaru goes from a gag character to someone with legitimate feats and visible character growth. When the Naraka Path gets a hold of Ebisu, the god, Konohamaru has the choice to run away, but instead he thinks back to the words Naruto said to him in chapter 2, before stepping out from behind cover to face off against the Naraka Path alone, with abilities we've seen him slowly gain over the course of the series. He even debuts his Rasengan, an A-rank jutsu known only by previous and future Hokage as well as Hokage candidates. This is a major feat, being that the Naraka Path previously took on 2 adult ninja as well as Ebisu, a jonin specifically appointed to train the Hokage's grandson. This puts Konohamaru at the very least like lowballing him as hard as I possibly can at low jonin level. Whether the Naraka Path is fit for combat against high-level shinobi like Asuma and Kakashi is another discussion entirely. The answer is probably no, but it's still a path to pain, so the feat is nothing to sneeze at. Naruto himself even acknowledges this in chapter 456, promising to teach Konohamaru the Odama Rasengan next. I know I've been sticking with the manga mostly, but in the anime, he's been shown to be able to use Asuma's Burning Ash as well as Hiruzen's Shuriken Jutsu, and even pull out as many shadow clones as Naruto can, despite the fact that this many should definitely exhaust all of his chakra, effectively unaliving him. He does fight and effectively and efficiently get his cheeks clapped by Tamari briefly, who just 2.5 years ago took out Curse Mark level 2 Tayuya with a single attack. But again, that's anime only. But the important part for his character in this filler is him learning the lesson of who the king is from Shikamaru, who in turn learned it from Asuma, who learned it from Hiruzen. I say all in all, Konohamaru's inclusion in the OG series, while minimal, was still fairly important to a certain extent for the story and for Naruto's character. So of course, having been Naruto's favorite student, he would play a role in the sequel series, and that he does, as we see in Boruto, where he is a much more important and serious character. But being more important than he was in Naruto isn't really a high bar, low-key. Real quick, before we get right into manga-only canon, I do want to mention this anime canon feat, where Konohamaru is able to fight and defeat an enraged Jugo, which is a late Shippuden level feat, but still pretty impressive given that we've only ever seen heavy hitters capable of doing so. You know, Sasuke, Suigetsu, A, Kimimaro, and Killer Bee. But this is anime canon, so it isn't in the manga, but I didn't want to leave it out since we'll take what we can get at this point. Now, anyone who's watched or read the Naruto series is familiar with Kakashi and the role he plays for our main characters. Even looking at how Asuma influenced Team 10, you get the idea that the Jonin are meant to be the beacon of morality and support for the Genin they lead, which is why when we see that Boruto's new team leader was to be Konohamaru, there was definitely a high bar for him to attempt to live up to. We see in Naruto during their very first C-rank mission with Team 7 that the stakes immediately go from 0 to in over their head immediately with the Demon Brothers. While these two seem like a dangerous duo to Naruto, the stakes only continue to ramp up once Zabuza enters the picture, let alone Haku. Kakashi reveals his Sharingan, and you get the feeling that things are about to get serious and that everyone was at risk, yet at the same time, they trusted in Kakashi to handle Zabuza, but as soon as Kakashi is caught in the water prison, the mission becomes impossible for the three Genin. Kakashi was so pivotal in this mission that as soon as he was captured, he told Team 7 to flee back to the village. Naruto and Sasuke, and I guess Sakura, know that they would never be able to overpower Zabuza, so their only chance was to outsmart him, not in order to defeat him, but just to get him to move his hand so that Kakashi would be able to return to the battle. As soon as Kakashi is back, the fight takes a drastic turn with Zabuza seeming like no issue at all to the Jonin. In Boruto, we get an arc very reminiscent of the Land of Waves with the Out arc. The new Team 7 is dispatched on a mission to escort a VIP outside of the village, much like Naruto did with the Bridge Builder. During their mission, Boruto is contacted by Naruto and notified that while Konohamaru was on a mission nearby, he was attacked and went radio silent. When Team 7 finally catches up with Konohamaru, they are met by Ao and a former shinobi of the mist who is now a rogue ninja. The issue I've always had with this setup is that it gives Konohamaru a free alley-oop to be the Kakashi of the new era, but instead, Boruto ends up taking the shine, despite being a weaker shinobi in terms of power as well as battle tactics. In most situations with Team 7, Konohamaru would take a backseat to his Genin students, which is the opposite of what we've seen from shinobi in the past like Kakashi, Asuma, Minato, Tobirama. It only serves to make him appear weaker to the audience in the grand scheme of things. While he does step in to save Boruto twice, these moments always leave him incapacitated long enough for Boruto to come in and deal the finishing blow. For a brief moment, things started to take a turn for the better in chapter 23 when Kashin Koji shows up, as Konohamaru steps to the front of his pack preparing to take on Koji solo, but he immediately gets soloed by a sealing jutsu. But wait, there's more! Konohamaru was able to release himself from the sealing jutsu as he promises to protect his team with his life, eh? He lunges at Koji, whips out a Rasengan, and oh, the fight's already over. And the icing on the cake is that Boruto unlocks his karma here, literally saving everyone. I don't want to get too much into the karma here since I already have a video explaining the ability in its entirety, so go check that out for a more in-depth analysis on it. But Boruto unlocking the karma here means that he's already surpassed Konohamaru in terms of battle capability, and it's only chapter 23 of 80 so far. The worst part of this arc is that Koji and Ao held back too, which is just crazy. This didn't look like holding back to me, but hey, what do I know? The worst part about this half of Boruto is that Konohamaru's scaling remains here at this level until the end. I don't want to compare him to Kakashi for the entirety of the video since they're two completely different characters who serve different purposes in their respective stories, but all the way up until the end of Shippuden, Kakashi not only had a personal stake in the plot, but was relevant in strength even in the battle against Kaguya. Konohamaru is done so dirty that he's added into scenes in the anime that he's not in the manga just to get laid out and fodderized. Look at my boy. Get her. I will say that while Konohamaru certainly isn't useless, he isn't exactly needed in the grand scope of the Boruto series beyond him teaching Boruto the Rasengan. Replace Konohamaru with any other ninja and you effectively have the same story, which is unfortunate because not only do I like him, but he's also been in a series longer than every other character save for Iruka. He still serves as the team leader and gives out orders on missions that he's appointed to, i.e. cohabitation. Look how they got my boy. But with Sarada becoming a Chunin, he isn't needed anymore. That's the biggest problem with Konohamaru in the series. He wasn't forgotten, he just wasn't needed. He still makes appearances and helps out on numerous occasions, as he was there when Boruto got his scar, and he left with Sasuke to go hunt Kawaki in chapter 79 but kinda disappeared in chapter 80. But yeah, it's not his story, and unlike Kakashi with Naruto, Konohamaru isn't pivotal to Boruto's story. Boruto has Sasuke, much like Naruto had Jiraiya, and while that could change in the future, I don't see Konohamaru teaching the Otsutsuki Jesus that Boruto is currently anything of substance at this point. Also, he's not in the Storm games as a playable character, but his NPC is in the story and has a working moveset. I hate it here. Alright, I'm out. Holla! I just want to say that filler Konohamaru and canon Konohamaru are two completely different characters, because filler Konohamaru is literally cool as hell. Filler Konohamaru is the Konohamaru I'd hoped we'd get, especially the one we see in the Jugo arc, and the choreography of the fight and everything is just perfect, or anime canon if you prefer that term. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me much. I'm just happy to see our boy get some representation. I will say that his best design by far is definitely him during the last. Why didn't we get more of this? I know everybody wants to see Naruto's blank period, but I kinda want to see this blank period for Konohamaru, especially seeing his growth from Genin all the way up until Jonin, because realistically speaking, he is the Leaf's top Jonin. The Hokage specifically puts him in positions to do the most important missions that we see in the Leaf, and he's always on top assignments. And to me, like, there's a bit of a threshold for our power levels in Boruto, and there is a major power gap, because once you reach that ceiling of where the Jonin are, which is where Konohamaru sits, everybody else is just far superior. But for your traditional ninja, Konohamaru is at the peak of that, because now you have that ninja level, which is where Shippuden kind of left behind, and then you start a cliff off into something that I kind of like to call basically that Otsutsuki level, and Konohamaru isn't up there, and there's not many characters that are up there, but where he sits is just strong enough to be important to the village, but not important enough to be essential in his use during our story, since these characters are far and away above what he's capable of, which is real unfortunate, because I genuinely like Konohamaru. He is and always has been one of my favorite characters in the series, and he still exhibits some of those gag character moments, specifically like when he meets Ida for the first time. Ida, I don't really care, and his heart starts beating too fast for him to handle and he passes out. While I do think that this is a hilarious moment, I just wish he was a little bit more useful. Not to say that he's useless or anything, I know useless is tossed around extremely loose in the community. I don't think there is a single useless character. I believe every character serves a purpose in our story. But as far as the prime narrative and pushing it forward, not every character is necessary in that. And it's a shame that Konohamaru is one of those characters that's not necessary for pushing the plot forward.